The Senate will come to order. Mr. Shoffley, please call the roll.
Senators Amabile, Baisley, Ball, Bridges, Bright, Carson, Catlin, Cutter, Danielson, Doherty, Exum, Frizzell, Gonzalez, Gonzalez,
Excuse.
Hendrickson, Judah, Kip, Kirkmeyer, Colker, Liston, Lundeen, Marchman,
Excused.
Michelson Genet, Mullica,
Excused.
Pelton B, Pelton R, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Snyder, Sullivan, Weissman, Winter, Gonzalez, Senate District 17 vacant. Mr. President.
Let's do this. The morning roll call is 32 present, 0 absent, 2 excused, 1 vacant. We have a quorum. Senator Judah, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the journal. Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to congratulate everybody on their vote yesterday. It was almost unanimous on the motion to approve the journal. So let's keep up the good work and really show some enthusiasm for our secretary. And with that, I move that the Senate Journal of March 13th, 2025 be approved as corrected by the secretary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. No. That's great. The ayes still have it, and the motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Joint Resolution 12, correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 143, Senate Joint Resolution 9, correctly re-engrossed, Senate Bill 199, correctly revised, House Bill 1027, 1040, 1041, 1093, correctly enrolled, Senate Bill 24 and 170, Senate Resolution 7.
Committee reports.
Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 145 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 31 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 144 be referred to Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 173 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Colorado State Fair Authority Board of Commissioners, effective November 2nd, 2024, for terms expiring November 1st, 2028. Bill Hybel of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the 3rd Agricultural District and as a Republican reappointed. John Singletary of Pueblo, Colorado, to serve as a representative of agriculture of the public at large and as a Democrat reappointed. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority, effective October 2nd, 2024, for terms expiring October 1st, 2028. Eric Wilkinson of Greeley, Colorado, to serve as a representative of engineering of the South Platte Drainage Basin, reappointed. Patricia Wells of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative with experience in water law and of the City and County of Denver, reappointed. Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 164 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 48 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 71 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Committee on Local Government and Housing, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1043 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Committee on Local Government and Housing, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 149 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Mr. President, the Committee on Local Government and Housing has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the State Housing Board, effective February 1st, 2025, for terms expiring January 31st, 2029. Candace Payne of Flagler, Colorado, to serve as a Republican and representative of the 4th Congressional District, reappointed. Jarrett Ryan Moses of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and representative of the 5th Congressional District, reappointed. Ryan Jones of Boulder, Colorado, to serve as an unaffiliated and representative of the 2nd Congressional District, appointed. Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 120 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the Senate not approve the confirmation of member of the Parks and Wildlife Commission for a term expiring July 1st, 2028. James J. Touchton of Hasty, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a nonprofit organization that promotes conservation and recognizes non-consumptive wildlife use, reappointed. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be confirmed. Member of the Parks and Wildlife Commission for a term expiring July 1st, 2028. Ty Jacober of Carbondale, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Production Agriculture and a member west of the Continental Divide, appointed. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Parks and Wildlife Commission for a term expiring July 1st, 2027. Murphy Robinson of Littleton, Colorado, to serve as a representative of sportspersons occasioned by the resignation of Gary Skyba of Durango, Colorado, appointed. For a term expiring July 1st, 2028, Dallas Laverne May of Lamar, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Production Agriculture, reappointed. Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 197 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation.
Message from the reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1005 and 1280, without comment as amended Senate Bill 4, 1642, and 133.
Joey Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. As there is no surprise, we have a request for a moment of personal privilege, so I make that motion.
That is new. I've never had to ask for this motion. The motion is we proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Very good. We have one no, but the ayes have it. We proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege. Members, before I call on anyone in the well, I just want to acknowledge that we have the honorable, amazing Senator Carrie Donovan with us today. Let's give it up for her. And as to not be fined or see a scowl from our Senate Secretary, I will call on the good Senator Jeff Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The former President Pro Tem...
Request?
Oh, may I have a moment of personal privilege?
Granted.
Thanks for not fining me on that. The former President Pro Tem, Senator Donovan, has brought a guest with her, and not just any guest. This is Senator Mark Daly, President of Ireland Senate. His official title, bear with me here, is Cathaoirleach Seanad Éireann. Is that close? All right. Senator Daly has served, that's the Gaelic, Senator Daly has served in Ireland Senate since 2007 and was recently re-elected unopposed for the 26th session. Throughout his career, he has been a steadfast advocate for Irish unity and a champion for strengthening the relationship between Ireland and the United States. In 2022, Senator Daly chaired a public consultation committee on the future of the island of Ireland, ensuring that voices from all communities were heard in shaping Ireland's future. Beyond his leadership at home, he has worked with over a dozen states, including Colorado, to build lasting economic and cultural partnerships. In his role in the American Irish Legislative Caucus, of which you can all join today simply by going over and shaking his hand and getting one of these nice buttons, it continues to reinforce the deep ties between the nations. Senator Daly's dedication to diplomacy, democracy, and peace is truly commendable. His leadership has not only impacted Ireland, but has fostered meaningful connections across the Atlantic. Please join me in welcoming Senator Mark Daly as we honor his service and commitment to a stronger, more united future. But first, know that Senator Daly is far more famous for coming in third on the Irish version of Survivor. Welcome to the Colorado Senate.
Welcome to the Colorado Senate. We have another moment of personal privilege.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Members, the Junior League of Denver is a women's training organization that empowers women to become civic leaders and impactful community volunteers. They are currently working to disrupt the cycle of systemic poverty for women and families in Denver. They were founded in 1918. The league started and aided in starting many well-known Denver institutions, including the Children's Museum of Denver, Mile High Transplant Bank, now Donor Alliance, Red Rocks Concerts, and many others. Their mission is to focus and advance on women's leadership for meaningful community impact through volunteer action, collaboration, and training. Please join me in welcoming the Junior League of Denver. Please stand to be recognized. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, colleagues. I want to take a moment to just acknowledge that actually today is the 5th anniversary of the day that Colorado issued its first stay-at-home order in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow.
And it's hard to not talk about this without getting emotional, because if you remember that time, it was a moment of, we're going to take 2 weeks, we're going to bend the curve, and then we're going to get back to work. When we left on that Saturday, March the 14th, 2020, we did not know how much our lives would change, how dramatically society would transform. I invite you all to look at this book every once in a while. Thank you. To think back at how fundamentally certain things transformed. And so I think I would just be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this moment, as in some ways we have come back together We're here, we don't have those weird plastic thingies in between us anymore. There aren't stacks of COVID-19 tests and masks. But in some ways, where we are witnessing the dismantling of public health institutions, both locally and across the country, thank you, as hundreds of thousands of Coloradans and millions of Americans continue to grieve the people that they loved, that they lost. And now, as we actually grapple with other vaccine-preventable diseases, we're navigating measles outbreaks in Texas and New Mexico. I think I'll just come back to share the words that I offered 5 years ago. In this moment of crisis, so many Coloradans are doing the work that gives us all hope and confidence that we'll get through this, that we will flatten the curve, that when we come back to work here in the Capitol, that we will continue to treat each other with dignity and respect and compassion. So in the coming days, I encourage you to pause and reflect. I encourage you to check in with your neighbors. I encourage you to listen to the public health experts and follow their lead. And I encourage you to practice physical distancing, but social solidarity in the days ahead. Maybe you lost loved ones. Maybe you've gotten into squabbles with people that you love and care about. But let's just acknowledge the moment for what it is. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Hey, we keep switching. It's all good. You're welcome. Thank you, Senator Gonzalez. Mr. Schaffler, please add Senators Mullica and Marchman to the roll. Third reading of bills. Final passage. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of House Bill 1093.
House Bill 1093 by Representatives Stewart and Barone and Senator Ball and Hendrickson concerning limitations on local land use policies that impose conditions that limit growth.
Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1093 on third reading and final passage and ask for permission for a third reading amendment.
Senator Hendrickson, please explain the need for a third reading amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in the amendment that we added on second reading, there was a reference to the Department of Parks and Wildlife. That should actually be the Division of Parks and Wildlife. So we can either fix this now or we can send it to Statutory Revision Committee where my co-prime, the good senator from North Denver, will have more work to do for himself. And I'm asking for the help of the Senate in working smarter, not harder.
Any further discussion? The question before the body is Senator Henrickson's request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it and permission is granted. Will the clerk please read amendment number L008 to House Bill 1093?
Amendment L008, amend revised bill, page 3, line 11, strike department and substitute division.
Senator Henrickson. Thank you, Madam President. So as aforementioned, this, I move L008.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is for the adoption of Amendment L008 to House Bill 1093. Are there any no votes? Senator, nope. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, the amendment is adopted. To the bill, Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Madam President. I renew my motion for the passage on third reading and final passage of House Bill 1093 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1093. Are there any no votes? Senators Snyder, Pelton B., Mr. Minority Leader, Kirkmeyer, Simpson, Bright, Carson, Frizzell, Catlin, Pelton R., Liston, Baisley, Rich, with a vote of 21 aye, 13 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1093 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Winter, Kipp, Cutter,
Move it. I'll just stand here and look.
will the
pretty.
clerk please read the title to House Bill 1041?
House Bill 1041 by Representative Smith and Senators Coleman and Amabile concerning measures to support a student athlete in the use of their name, image, or likeness.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I move House Bill 1041 on third reading and final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1041. Are there any no votes? Senators Pelton B., Pelton R., Sullivan, with a vote of Gonzalez. With a vote of 30 aye, 4 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1041 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senator Snyder,
Mr. Schauffler, please read the title of House Bill 1040.
House Bill 1040 by Representatives Valdez and Winter and Senators Roberts and Liston concerning the inclusion of nuclear energy as a source of clean energy.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move House Bill 1040 on third reading and final passage.
Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1040. Are there any no votes? Senators Weissman, Winter, Michelson Janae, Cutter, Amabile. With a vote of 29 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1040 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Frizzell, Mullica, Bright, Carson, Baisley, Rich, Catlin, Pelton R., Kirkmeyer, Pelton B., Mr. Minority Leader, Mr. Majority Leader, Cutter. Oh, do not add Cutter. Marchman, Colker, Henriksen, Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of House Bill 1027.
House Bill 1027 by Representatives Gilchrist and Brown and Senators Doherty and Mullica concerning modifications to statutes governing disease control.
Senator Doherty.
I move House Bill 1027 on third and final passage.
Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1027. Are there any no votes? Senators, Mr. Minority Leader, Simpson, Frizzell, Catlin, Baisley, Rich, Pelton R., Carson, Bright, Kirkmeyer, Pelton B. With a vote of 23 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, House Bill 1027 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Roberts, Weissman, Michelson Janae, Winter, Kip, Cutter,
Comfortable to tell you what I'm thinking?
Coker, Bridges, Ball, Gonzalez, Judah,
And if you don't,
Amabile.
you're welcome.
Exum. Please add the president. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of Senate Bill 143. Go ahead.
Senate Bill 143 by Senators Doherty and Lundin and Representatives Armagost and Carter concerning the limited use of facial recognition services by schools.
Senator Doherty.
I move Senate Bill 143 on third and final passage.
Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 143. Are there any no votes? Senator Sullivan. With a vote of 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 143 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Kip, Mr. Majority Leader, Roberts, Mullica, Amabile, Kirkmeyer, General orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, Senator Winter. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Senate Rule 21C, I move that the Senate grant leave to the senator from Greenwood Village, the senator from Brighton, and the senator from Boulder committee to meet while the Senate is in session.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Yet, even though it sounded like the noes had it, the ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Y'all are dismissed. Now, Senator Winter, General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate resolve itself Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Winter will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed for everyone in the chamber. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill on the General Order second reading consent calendar?
Senate Bill 172 by Senators Carson and Sullivan and Representative Clifford concerning clarification of the conditions under which an uncontested election in a special district director district may be canceled.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the passage of the bill on General Order, second reading of bill consent calendar, which is Senate Bill 172, and there are no committee reports.
Is there any discussion on the bill on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of the bill on the General Order second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
Senator will come back to order. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
March 14, 2025. Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 172, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, the committee of the whole report is adopted. May I have that, please? Yes. Senate Bill 172 passed in second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on counter for third reading and final passage. General orders, second reading of bills. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. That was weak. Opposed, no? The ayes have it. The motion is still adopted. The Senate will resolve itself in the committee of the whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Winter will take the chair.
No,
The committee will come to order, and the court rule is relaxed for everyone in the chamber. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 160?
Senate Bill 160 by Senator Snyder and Judah and Representatives Hamrick and Morrow concerning requiring certain motor vehicle manufacturers that have affiliates to sell through franchise motor vehicle dealers.
Senator Judah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 160 and the committee report, the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In committee, we had a very robust discussion with very compelling testimony. We did have 4 amendments, one that modified the definition of affiliate. It clarified independent control and extended to retail sales, lease, retail services, and warranty services. The third, it changes to manufacturers can service, repair vehicles that have not yet been sent to the dealer. And finally, over-the-air software updates that at no cost from the manufacturer are not competition for the dealers. And I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Sarah Baisley. On the committee report, Sarah Baisley? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. To the bill. Senator Judah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we are here today to talk about the well-anticipated 160 that ensures Colorado maintains the appropriate balance under its motor vehicle franchise laws and prevents motor vehicle manufacturers with franchise dealers from unfairly competing against their own Colorado dealers with more than 44,000 dealer employees who live and work in this state. I want to repeat that. More than 44,000 dealer employees who live and work in our state. Under a franchise agreement, a dealer agrees to a variety of obligations in exchange for the exclusive right to sell a manufacturer's vehicles with a specified geographical area. These obligations include strict service and maintenance protocols, sales and customer satisfaction metrics, and even requirements as specific as signage, colors, showroom square footage, and the number of service bays. Colorado dealers invest tens of millions of dollars in meeting these requirements, not just in their physical locations, but more importantly, in their employees. Today, we are here because some manufacturers with franchise dealers, namely Volkswagen, have announced plans to sell directly to consumers through a wholly owned subsidiary using the name of a defunct brand, Scout Motors. VW and Scout are trying to exploit the allowance created by Tesla and Rivian and other electric vehicle manufacturers to sell directly to consumers. However, that allowance was expressly conditioned on those manufacturers not having franchise dealerships. Scout has publicly suggested that VW is only an investor in the company, and some of you may have seen advertisements promoting Scout as an independent brand comeback. However, and I encourage you all to do this, a simple Google search or a look at the fine print on their website confirms that Scout is in fact wholly owned by VW. I want to read to you an excerpt from VW's 2024 annual investor report just released this past Tuesday. Quote, under the Volkswagen Group's North America strategy, Scout Motors, Tyson's USA, a wholly owned subsidiary in the Volkswagen Group, was established in fiscal year 2022. A new vehicle brand is to be created under the name of Scout to manufacture electrified all-terrain vehicles and pickups in the USA from 2027. This was a direct quote from VW's annual investor report. VW calls Scout a wholly owned subsidiary. That is VW's verbiage and not ours. They also acknowledge that Scout has no ties to International Harvester Scout, the historical company that we've all come to love and have sentimental feelings about. This type of bad faith activity is precisely why Colorado and 49 other states already have motor vehicle franchise laws. States across the country are updating their motor vehicle franchise laws to recognize that affiliates of manufacturers with franchise dealers should not be allowed to operate dealerships in competition. In fact, California passed a bill incorporating affiliates into their definition of motor vehicle manufacturers unanimously. I do not want this bill to be centered around VW or Scout. I want to be really clear about this. This is not what we should be focusing on. I do not want them to detract from the heart of this bill. But what I do want to do is protect the 44,000 Coloradan people and jobs in this state that depend on these dealerships. So with that, I want to cover some of the concerns we've heard and dispel a lot of the misinformation. And the very first one is it's anti-competitive. This bill upholds, it is not anti-competitive. It upholds the franchise dealer model, which promotes competitions. Dealers diversify Colorado's motor vehicle marketplace, allowing consumers to shop around, have dealers compete on base price, financing, add-ons, and service, and yes, even interest rate. Conversely, direct-to-consumer models are dictated by price, by manufacturer on sales and service with no room for negotiation. That is anti-competitive. Moreover, 160 explains the allowance given to Tesla and Rivian and makes it easier for new manufacturers producing cars with different propulsion systems, hydrogen, natural gas, etc., to enter the market. We are not stopping that from happening. And finally, the last thing that I want to debunk, if you will, is Colorado's EV adoption rates or prevent new entrants to the market. SB 60, the 2024 new car registration data shows that dealers sold 20,000 more EVs than direct-to-consumer sellers. I want to say that again. Dealers sold 20,000 more EVs than direct-to-consumers, showing that dealers are on the front line of growing consumer confidence in EVs. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to pass it to my co-prime.
Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the nuts and bolts within this Bill 160. Senate Bill 160 makes 3 targeted modifications to Colorado's motor vehicle franchise law. It defines who qualifies as an affiliate of a manufacturer and includes affiliates in the definition of manufacturer. It clarifies, in addition to the existing prohibition on manufacturers owning, operating, or controlling a motor vehicle dealer, manufacturers may not compete against their own franchise dealerships. 3, it updates existing law to allow manufacturers without franchise dealers to own and operate motor vehicle dealerships in the state. This preserves the existing allowance for Tesla, Rivian, and other manufacturers who do not use the franchise model, ensuring new entrants can compete and enter the marketplace fairly with a real good chance to compete. The changes in SB 160 are not new. Colorado has long prohibited manufacturers from exerting control over dealerships. In fact, if you look at that section of statute, it's mostly about protecting dealerships and preserving the relationship between manufacturers and their dealership franchises. The modifications in this bill, ensuring affiliates are subject to state franchise law, have already been adopted in other states. For example, as my colleague from Aurora mentioned, California passed a similar bill to this just last year by unanimous vote. Meanwhile, South Carolina, despite offering VW $1.3 billion in tax incentives to locate their manufacturing facility in that state, tabled this bill that would have allowed them to bypass their dealers and sell directly to consumers. Like those states, we are asking to uphold Colorado's commitment to fair competition and ensure manufacturers respect their obligations to our state dealers and, more importantly, to their workforce. We have worked with the manufacturers, including GM, who are not attempting to circumvent their dealerships. To further clarify the bill's provisions, we will present some of those amendments here today. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Senator Judah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move, I have an amendment, Madam Chair.
There is an amendment at the desk. Senator Judah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L006 to SB 160.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. L6, the manufacturer.
Will the clerk please read L006?
Amendment L006, amend printed bill, page 2, line 17, strike 2G and substitute 2G and add 2J, page 3 before line 10, insert J, authorizing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. L6, the manufacturers can sell a fleet of vehicles to certain operators, but per state law, the sale has to be facilitated by a dealer. Once sold, they can do their own warranty work, but can also go to a dealer if they so choose. And I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L006? The The question before us is the adoption of L006. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Amendment L006 is adopted. Senator Snyder.
I have an amendment also. Yeah, I got this one.
There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L008?
Amendment L008, amend printed bill, page
Senator
3.
Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So L008 adds certain applicable provisions of the bill to the Power Sports section of CRS. Power Sports have mirrored language in the statute that says no manufacturer shall own, operate, or control a dealership in competition with their franchise dealers. L008 aligns the Power Sports dealer statute with the motor vehicle statute, and there's a lot of crossover. As bills dealing with these statutes come before us, we try to make statutes align as much as possible, and L008 does this. For years, Power Sports dealers have sold both Power Sports vehicles and motorcycles, which are clearly regulated under the motor vehicle statute. Every dealer in the state, with the exception of Harley-Davidson, sells both types and multiple lines of vehicles, both motor vehicles and Power Sports vehicles, to survive and be competitive in the market. In other words, dealers have to sell not just one line of both vehicles, but 4 to 8 lines to survive. Just as in traditional motor vehicle franchise law, Colorado has long recognized that manufacturers of motorcycles and power sport vehicles should not unfairly compete against their own local franchise dealers. This makes the update and clarification of SB 60 important to those dealers as well, and we ask for an aye vote.
Thank you for the explanation. And Senator Snyder, can you officially move L008?
Thank you. I move L008 to Senate Bill 160.
Thank you. And is there any further discussion on L008? Seeing none, those in favor of L008 say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L008 is adopted. We are to the bill. Senator Judah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, the dealer model naturally invites competition. And instead of being dictated by price from a manufacturer, the consumer can shop around among dealerships for the best cost-saving price based on financing, add-ons, et cetera. I think we need to protect this model, and I know a lot of people have feelings about dealerships, but the reality is that they are economic drivers, and they are job makers. And we need to keep that in mind when we talk about what is at the heart of this bill. Direct to consumers is not without its issues. We understand that. There are consumers who are comfortable with buying a car sight unseen, having zero negotiation on price. However, for working class families, that is seeking to make what is likely the biggest purchase of their life outside of their home, being able to shop around, compare prices, test drive the car, and those are all very critical things. This is even more important for EVs. People are more comfortable purchasing EVs when they know they have a place to nearby to charge their vehicles, that service is readily available, and can educate them on the incentives that might reduce the price. The Nissan Leaf is the best example. There are gaps in consumer experience under a direct-to-consumer model, which is why Rickenbaugh had to step up to help Tesla and Rivian with service. So I want to make sure that we have the ability to allow our folks, as my co-prime so eloquently puts it, kick the tires.
I do know we have further discussion on the bill. I'm just waiting to see if either of our sponsors are going to raise their hand again.
Oh, he's gone, oh.
There's a line
Yes.
of very loud yeses.
Sarah Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was the most stressful bill for me in my whole time in the legislature. Seriously, not that it strikes something, life-threatening or anything like that, but it was just such an intellectual battle between my left and right brain over what's the right position to take constitutionally and legislatively and so on. So let me walk through my reasoning on all this. So the Tesla really broke the mold when they introduced their electric vehicles and wanted to sell directly to the consumers. So this would be the manufacturer directly selling to the consumers, which of course we see that they do in malls and so on. So this was changing an exception to longstanding statute that's been in place not only in Colorado but in most states across the U.S. where the requirement is for new vehicles to be purchased only through auto dealerships. So this allowance for Tesla then has led to, it was obviously not, because we don't write laws specifically to a company, this was to the profile of a company that manufactures only electric vehicles manufactured in the U.S., and they are allowed to sell directly to the consumer. So Rivian followed suit. Now we have Volkswagen has purchased the brands International Harvester and the model Scout, under which there's intent to build this company as a U.S.-based manufacturer manufacturing only electrical vehicles. So to comply with that requirement of a direct-to-consumer sale by the manufacturer, because it would qualify for that. Now, the dealers are objecting because saying, well, this is Volkswagen. We have Volkswagen dealerships. This is Volkswagen doing effectively an end around the dealership model and selling those models, Scout models, directly to the consumer, which is the intent and of course the objection being made in this bill. It would be my preference that this get hammered out in the courts. So because there's a contractual relationship, of course, between the dealers and the manufacturer. So a dealer has a Volkswagen dealership, and here's Volkswagen coming in with an attempt to sell directly to the consumer without the involvement of the auto dealership. But then if does it qualify really? Does it qualify because it is a U.S.-based, separately operated manufacturer in the U.S. manufacturing only electrical vehicles and therefore can sell directly? Or is it because they're doing the end around because the only investor in this brand is Volkswagen? So the core of this bill, Senate Bill 160, is to make clarifications that when a manufacturer that manufactures automobiles in addition to electrical vehicles, that also is part of this definition. So it kind of extends the definition, and I like to think of it as a clarification, but it extends the definition in current statute that a vehicle manufacturer that owns and operates traditional gas-powered internal combustion vehicles that also invests solely into a electrical-only vehicle. That's all part of the same organization. So that's the idea. I'm leaning towards, and I voted for this bill because I'm leaning towards that clarification. I really wish that this were to be hammered out in the courts. However, what I would really prefer is that we didn't have such involvement in this industry in the first place. But that's as it stands. My fear is that if we do not pass the bill, that we will have a disruption that would be akin to the liquor license disruption in that industry that we've been kind of trying to find our way through as a state for over the past 4 or 5 years. So, at any rate, I'm not a hard yes, and I'd advise you give this some real due consideration of, is this a civil matter between companies that ought to be hammered out in the courts, or should the legislature continue in regulating this industry to this detail? That's the question on the table. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, members, I am the ranking member for our side of the aisle on the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, and I won't equivocate. I am a strong yes on Senate Bill 160, and let me tell you why. There's a lot of good reasons why. First and foremost, the automobile dealers that we all know in our communities, they're model citizens. They have been in our communities for years, for decades. We know these people. We work with these people. We have bought cars from these people. Our kids have played Little League Baseball with their children and their grandchildren. So we have a very, very strong relationship with the model citizens, otherwise known as our automotive dealers. They go to our churches, our schools. When it comes time to support our various causes that we all have, you know, whether it's PTA or the Little League baseball team or Boy Scouts or whatever it may be, one of the first groups that we go to are our good friends, the auto dealers throughout Colorado. And now then, and I could go on, but I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. But now then, and I have nothing against Volkswagen. The truth is, as I said in committee, I have bought 3 Volkswagens from the local automobile dealer in Colorado Springs. In fact, I won't say their name, but they're very well known. They also sold Subarus. And, you know, it kind of strikes me interesting that at least in Colorado Springs, if they can sell Volkswagens and they can sell Subarus, well, why can't they sell Scouts in their same automotive dealership? You know, fine, go ahead, Volkswagen. You know, the automobile dealers are not against competition. In fact, that's what makes them even stronger, is the competition. In Colorado Springs, as many of you know, and it's in your communities, you will see dealership after dealership after dealership, and the consumer is free to go right down Motor City Road and haggle and work with all the automobile dealers that they want. So it's not that the dealers are afraid against the competition. What they're concerned about, rightfully so, is that the manufacturers, a lot of people don't realize this, you know, these automobile dealerships, the plant and the equipment and the showrooms, guess who pays for that? It's the dealership, it's the owner, the local dealer. It's not the manufacturer. So when they have to stay up to standards to keep their supply of cars coming in, and they have to expand and improve, it's not Volkswagen or it's not General Motors or it's not Stellantis who pays for that. It is the local dealer that invests millions of dollars into their dealership to stay competitive and to abide by the rules. Well, now then we have Volkswagen that wants to come in and compete directly against their own dealership and sell Scouts. I have nothing against Scouts. I'd forgotten that they were, years ago, that they were wholly owned by International Harvester. But, you know, International Harvester couldn't make a go of it. And so the brand has been dormant until Volkswagen bought it a few years ago for something to the, correct me if I'm wrong, something like $3.7 billion. Am I right on that? Something like that. So yes, Volkswagen has a definite financial interest in selling Scouts. But if they want to sell Scouts, let's go through the time-tested model that has been so successful here in Colorado and let them sell their Scouts through the Volkswagen dealerships of which they depend upon. So it's worked very, very well. Let's not change the model just because it may, if Volkswagen likes to do this in Europe or wherever else they sell their cars, let's not change the model that has been so successful here in Colorado. All they're asking here in Senate Bill 160 is to, Volkswagen, if you want to sell Scouts, that's fine. We're prepared to sell them. But we do not want to compete against our own manufacturer. That's just not right. It's not fair. And quite frankly, the courts don't need to settle it. We have the capability of, you know, settling this here and now. I guess the other thing I would say, and I think it was said by the good senator of Aurora and maybe the good senator from El Paso County, of all of the tens of thousands of jobs, you know, it's something like 44,000. Those are just the direct jobs that are tied to the dealerships. That has nothing to do with the indirect jobs, you know, that the restaurants that are around and the auto body places and the other ancillary businesses that depend upon a healthy automotive industry that we have here in Colorado. The old adage, members, that I can think of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It ain't broke here in Colorado right now. It works very well. We don't need to fix it. So the only way that we really can fix it is let's stay with what has been so successful for all of the automotive industry and the dealerships here in Colorado. And I urge and I vote for all of my colleagues on whatever side of the aisle. I strongly encourage and I vote, no ifs, ands, or buts, for Senate Bill 160. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to make sure that I'm reading the right section in statute. 4420-102. Why are we here in this moment? Why are we debating this bill? It's rare for me, actually, to hear, when we're talking about policy, to hear specific brand names be mentioned, to hear specific industries to be called out by name as being either in or out. Why are we here? We are witnessing right now EVs being advertised on the lawn of the White House. Why are we here right now? We're here because a couple of years ago, a handful of good lobbyists did some good lobby work, and they got an exception placed into statute in order to allow Tesla, since we're going to be naming folks by name, to go around the rules that exist for everybody else. That's why the dealerships like Nissan for the Leaf or Honda for their, I forget what it's called, electric vehicle, or Ford with their Mustang, right? Tesla doesn't have to abide by the other rules that every other manufacturer in the rule has to abide by. Then Rivian saw, oh, hey, that looks pretty sweet. They got themselves a handful of lobbyists, came and passed that exception too. Cool, cool, cool. So why not let Scout travel down the well-worn path of finding exceptions to the rules? Then the then the dealers say, wait a second, that's probably not a good idea, long-term strategy. And so now we see 160 to try and say, you know what? Let's actually restore a level playing field moving forward from here on out. Except, y'all, we're not operating on a level playing field at the moment, particularly when the richest man in the world, the richest man in the history of the world, gets free advertising on the lawn of the White House from our dear president. So with that, Madam Chair, I move L9 to Senate Bill 160 and ask that it be read at length.
There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L009?
Amendment L009, amend printed bill, page 3, line 9, strike state and substitute state, except that this subsection 2G shall not apply to a manufacturer that actively undermines American democracy and publicly refers to the federal Social Security program as a Ponzi scheme.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you. Again, I move L9 to Senate Bill 160. What does this amendment do? It goes into Title 44, Section 4420-102 in the definitions of who a manufacturer is. And if you look in the red books, manufacturer means any person, firm, association, corporation, or trust, resident or non-resident who manufactures or assembles new and unused motor vehicles, except that manufacturer does not include, and then there's exceptions listed there. Cool, cool, cool. Senate Bill 160 says, okay, manufacturers from the date of the passage of this bill on out. And so what L9 says, yeah, but you lose your exception if you're actively undermining American democracy. If you are using your wealth and position and power to say, let me get some free car ads out of this, I'm sorry, we as a state should not be continuing to allow your exemptions to the rules to exist. I ask for an aye vote, and if you're going to be a no, I want to know why.
Thank you. The question before us is L009. Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I forget, I want to thank my colleagues from the good senator from Woodland Park and from Colorado Springs for their testimony. And specifically, I want to thank my great colleague from Denver for being engaged in this bill and bringing this amendment. While I agree with many of the sentiments that you've expressed and have my own level of discomfort and may I say it, outrage with some of the goings-on, this bill is too important to the folks that we're trying to get this area cleaned up and make it right. So I would respectfully ask for a no vote on this amendment and allow us to really get a solid, cogent bill put together. But I really appreciate the offer.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on L009? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L009. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and L009 fails. Senator Gonzalez.
I am shocked, let me tell you. So we're saying, okay, even if you're undermining American democracy, that's cool. Let's just allow the rules to be played in the way that the rules are going to be played. So with that, Madam Chair, I move L7 to Senate Bill 160 and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L007?
Amendment L007, amend printed bill, page
Senator
2, line...
Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L7 to Senate Bill 160.
To the amendment.
Thank you. What this amendment does is it strikes those exceptions to the rule. And it says, you know what? If we want to actually support dealers and dealerships, let's actually support dealerships and dealers. If you want to sell a car in the state of Colorado, follow the rules. Set up at a dealership. Don't tell me that your technology is so precious and unique that you can't go to a dealer, that you can't go to a regular auto body shop and have that vehicle serviced. The EV revolution is here. Dealerships across the industry are selling them. They're servicing them. They're doing the work. Help me understand from a business perspective why we should not be playing all by the same rules. Help me understand why. Help me understand why we should say, here are the level playing rules that we're going to set from here on out. Tesla, Rivian, don't worry about them. I mean, truth be told, look at Tesla's stock numbers. I don't know how much longer they're going to be around anyway. But if we're going to actually talk about supporting and protecting the small auto dealers and that important industry, 44,000 jobs here in the state of Colorado, then let's actually support this amendment. I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Jodeh.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the good senator from Denver for actually both amendments. I do appreciate it. You and I share very similar views, and you know, I think for this particular amendment, to strike Tesla and Rivian, to strike that exception, it changes what we made to make it easier for new entrants to participate in the marketplace. So in my opening comments, something that I mentioned was everyone's concern about anti-competitiveness. And this amendment would actually make it anti-competitive because it would leave the general premise that manufacturers should sell through dealers intact, which is a longstanding Colorado law. The reason we are asking you to vote no on this amendment is because if this were to be added, it would perhaps actually make the bill anti-competitive. Dealers are not afraid of competition. They compete against each other on a day-to-day basis. They are also not afraid of competing against Tesla and Rivian. This amendment actually goes at the heart of what the bill wants to do. I want to also clarify that if any other manufacturer that is EV or what have you, and does not have a contract with a dealer here in Colorado, by all means, welcome to Colorado. We want to make that opportunity available for these manufacturers to have an entrance to our marketplace. But preventing that would in fact be anti-competitiveness. I asked for a no vote.
Sarah Gonzalez.
Help me understand, because maybe my little two brain cells are just working a little slower to this Friday morning. How is asking everyone to play by the same rules somehow anti-competitive?
Sarah Snyder.
Thank you. You know, it is rather a historical one-off that we've found ourselves in the current situation. I mean, we all realize that, you know, one company bought a defunct bus company that did not have the same rules and was able to get direct sales accomplished for that company. And that's when we addressed it by saying, okay, anybody who doesn't have a franchise model in Colorado will open that up to direct sales. So there are a couple of entrants. We're leaving that provision open for new entrants into the EV market, into natural gas or renewable natural gas vehicles, hydrogen vehicles. We're absolutely not afraid of competition. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find an industry more competitive than the auto franchise dealers. But I think we can't, we've had stakeholders who initially were not supporting this bill because they wanted to remove the direct sales ability. And we've worked really hard and stakeholding with them and getting them to a supportive position. But I think this is very important that we allow for future models. At the same time, preserving what's worked so well for 100 years in the state of Colorado. So I would respectfully ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Sarah Gonzalez.
Thanks, Madam Chair, for acknowledging me. So, if I'm understanding correctly, Tesla bought a bus company out of La Junta and allowed them to skirt the rules that exist for every other franchise in the state. L7, the amendment that we are debating right now says January 1, 2027, you know what? Let's all play by the same rules. It's not tomorrow. It's not overnight. We give Tesla, should they still be around, looking at their stock market, if they're still around January 1, 2027, sure, continue to operate, follow the same rules that Ford, Honda, Dodge, everybody else has to play by. That's all I'm asking. I renew my ask for an aye vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? The question before us is the adoption of L007. All those in favor say further discussion. A senatorial 5 has been called. Before us is the question of L007. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those of y'all who took a pause, stopped to take a beat during the commercial break, I want to just remind you what L007 does. Very clearly, it says that by January 1, 2027, if you bought a bus company in order to not have to be qualified and play by the rules of everybody else, AKA the actions that Tesla did, and that Rivian followed suit afterwards, L007 says, nope. As of January 1, 27, everybody plays by the same rules outlined in Senate Bill 160. I renew my call for an aye vote because I do think that it is incredibly important that all companies play by the same rules. What happens if Senate Bill 160 passes without this amendment and Tesla wants to go and create some subsidiary known as Schmezla? Then what? What rules will they have to operate under? Right now, 160 says, you know what? Y'all can continue to go and operate in that manner. If we actually want to put a stop to companies going around the rules, and if we actually want to say, you know what? Let's set up fair competition for all of the auto industry, especially now, as we're witnessing one dealer manufacturer go on and getting free ads on the White House lawn, go on ahead. But that's what's at stake here with this amendment. I love and respect the good senator from Manitou Springs. I respect deeply the senator from Aurora. But this is about a company right now that is flaunting on so many levels the ways in which they do not play by the rules that are set forth for everyone else. And for that reason, I renew my motion for an aye vote on L7, and I request a division.
A division has been requested. All those in the chamber not entitled A division has been requested. All those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated. The motion is for the adoption of L007. All those in favor, please stand. The chair is not in doubt, and L007 is lost. To the bill. Senator Jota. Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to keep it short. We talked a lot about how this bill is not anti-competitive, and amendments like we just had a discussion and division over would have destroyed that non-competitive nature. So really, what we're doing is we're taking one of the most robust and competitive industries we have and making sure that they are protected under the current laws of Colorado, while at the same time we're leaving a door open. So companies that already have no franchise agreements, no dealerships in Colorado, they can enter the market. And that door stays open for future entrants, whether it's more EVs or internal combustion engines, hydrogen, renewable natural gas. We want all of the above to have that ability. But if you have a dealership model in Colorado, you have obligations under that. You put a lot of obligations on your franchise dealers, and there's reciprocal obligations on those manufacturers. That's why the existing manufacturers are supporting this bill. Also, talking about EV adoption. And we heard already 20,000 more. 2022, 14,000 EVs sold through direct sales, 11,000 through the dealerships. 2024, 40,000 sold through the dealerships, down to 11 in direct sales. I know that some of the market and some of the dealerships are a little slow to embrace the electrics, but they are fully invested now. They're training their people on how to service them, and they are going great guns. If we want to really ramp up and exponentially increase the use of EVs in Colorado, the dealership model is the way to do that.
Senator Jota.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be very quick. Members, at the heart of this bill is protecting 44,000 jobs and preserving businesses that help buyers make informed decisions. Dealerships provide a critical service, offering test drives, competitive pricing, and a pathway for EV ownership for those who can't afford luxury brands like Tesla and Rivian. Dealers are not resisting change. They are not resisting change. They are evolving rapidly. They are investing in EV infrastructure, training their workers, and adapting their service base to meet the needs of the electric future. Yet we've heard firsthand in committee and here that servicing high-end EVs often means long wait times, something that many everyday families and consumers simply cannot afford. The future of transportation is electric, and dealers are ready to play their role in that transition. They're not asking for a handout. They're asking to be allowed to compete, to serve customers who rely on them, and to continue being a bridge to EV adoption and working families. This bill ensures they have that opportunity. Let's stand with them, with the workers, and move forward. I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and my apologies to the sponsor. I didn't mean to interrupt their wrap-up comments here. I just was slower on the draw than them, so my apologies. I just wanted to give my reasoning for why I'll be a no on this bill. I heard this in Business Labor Technology Committee, had a lot of conversations and really wrestled with it. We have this dual marketplace for vehicles that exists today. If you're all electric, if you're a manufacturer of all electric vehicles, if the brand is all electric vehicles, and you don't have a prior existing dealership relationship in Colorado, you have the option of going direct to consumer. The dealership model that we have was critically important when we go back to the early 1900s at the advent of the automobile industry, to be able to ensure that there was a point of service for vehicles when there were maintenance needs for the new consumers of those vehicles, and to ensure that there wasn't a manufacturer's monopoly over the sales of vehicles. And so we created this framework that it was regulatory scheme that ensured the free market, that ensured that there wasn't a monopoly on the sales, and ensured that there was a direct connection to guaranteed service for the consumer. 100 years later, over 100 years later, we're in a very different environment, and certainly it's important that we don't harm the dealerships that were created in that environment 100 years ago, but we also need to be able to foster a free market of the future. And that's why we did this separation when we're applying it to all electric vehicle makes and models. And so here we are. We have this existing framework, and what has happened with Scout is I think a really unique situation. International Harvester began as a company manufacturing tractors. They then began developing construction equipment, then began developing commercial vehicles, and then began developing motor vehicles for public use, personal motor vehicles. When the personal motor vehicle line folded in 1980, they continued making commercial vehicles, were bought out by Navistar. The farm agricultural equipment became known as Case IH, Case International Harvester. Navistar trucks are known as Navistar International, and those operations continued. There is a non-ceasing line of international production of vehicles and equipment from 1902 through to the present. And so when Volkswagen bought Navistar and bought the rights to the brands that they have continued to have trademarked, they're not creating a new motor vehicle company from scratch. They're buying one that has been in existence for 123 years in various different forms and has gone through restructuring, has gone through financial hardships, has gone through financial successes, has been an owned or a subsidiary of other companies in the past, but has been an ongoing player in the marketplace of vehicle equipment design and manufacturing. There are not many other brands that you can do that with. We have defunct brands like Saturn, wholly owned by GM, has established dealership relationships in Colorado. We have a brand that's defunct called Saab. Saab has continued to make defense equipment and exists as a defense equipment manufacturer and producer in Sweden. To revive that brand in the same way that the Scout brand is being revamped would require the purchase of that defense manufacturer, which is entirely possible, but I think unlikely. We can go back to Packard, Studebaker, the long defunct brands of American history and lore, and those are no longer in existence. For a company to try to recreate one of those brands would not involve an acquisition of a currently operational company, and would, I think, be ruled as the courts as explicitly a spin-off of their own company, and thus would still be held accountable to Colorado's dealership requirements. What we're seeing here is not an end run around the law. It is, I think, an applicability of the law as it was written. And I worry, not for Scout, but for the future development of electric vehicles in the United States and the future growth of the electric vehicle market in the United States, where we see other companies that are developing from scratch, where it requires extraordinary capital and extraordinary investment to be able to start a motor vehicle company, and potential barriers to marketplace if we make the changes in Senate that are proposed in Senate Bill 160. Next year, we're expecting a company to come to market called Telotrucks, a manufacturer of fully electric, small micro trucks that seek to fulfill a niche for utilitarian purposes at highly, highly efficient miles per gallon equivalents, more than we see in other electric truck segments. And there's questions about the sustainability of their finance model. And if they need investment to be able to get their operations fully going and to expand into Colorado and to other states throughout the country, where will that investment come from? The answer is likely from other motor vehicle manufacturers. Now, they already have vehicles that have been developed that they've shown at auto shows throughout the country. Nobody would question that Telotruck began as their own independent company, but if we pass this bill and Telotruck needs financing to move forward and they're bought by the Ford Motor Company, they would be compelled to go through a dealership which they have no operations in Colorado. Ford does, but here you have what is clearly an independent, wholly electric vehicle company that would be barred from one of the options clearly classified in law in the state of Colorado for fully electric motor vehicle brands. That's the kind of unintended consequences that I see of this bill. That's a concern I have with this bill. And I will add, too, that we just created with L8 a really unique problem for the power sports segment, where unlike automobile dealerships, there is a large concentration within a couple single brands within this power sports dealer arena. You have Harley, you have Indian, you have everybody else. And increasingly, new entrants to the motorcycle market have to go through specifically Harley or Indian dealerships because they're the ones that are available and because they don't have the capital to set up their own dealership system. And there are unique costs and restrictions placed on those models to prevent them from being able to compete with Harley or Indian. And now we have a situation where 2 months ago, KTM went bankrupt. And KTM, one of the largest motorcycle manufacturers in the world, has a line called the Free Ride lineup, and it's their line of the different all-electric motorcycle offerings of KTM. And as they go through the bankruptcy process, it is entirely likely that some company, possibly a Honda, possibly a Yamaha, will purchase the Free Ride segment of that brand exclusively so that that lineup can serve as a fully electric lineup of motorcycles. And under what we just did with L008, they would have to go through the dealership model, which would likely drive them into, which would guarantee drive them into Harley dealerships, Indian dealerships, or all of the rest dealerships. And if we're dealing with a company, a smaller company, say a Royal Enfield, that doesn't have a real stake in all of the rest dealerships and has most of their offerings through Harley at the sort of whims of Harley, then you have a whole new lineup that cannot really effectively compete with Harley's offerings because they're forced it through the Harley dealership lineup. That's how this bill becomes anti-competitive. That's why I'm going to be a no vote on Senate Bill 160.
Minority Leader Lundin.
Thank you very much. I rise ultimately in support of this bill. And I've been noted the fact that we have a lot of folks who watch commerce very closely. There are individuals who might in fact be members of a Chamber of Commerce in the building. They might be members of a Chamber of Commerce from Colorado Springs in the building, watching this discussion around how we tussle with the ideas of free markets and regulation, appropriate, inappropriate, and in the extreme at certain points of this particular conversation. So I would have waited until we get to the announcements to make this sort of a comment, but I don't think they might still be on the floor at that point, and I wanted to call out the fact that individuals might be in the building that care about commerce, they might care about this particular bill, and they might be from the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just maybe here. Further discussion on Senate Bill 160. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 160. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 160 is adopted. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 157 until Tuesday, March the 18th.
The motion before you is to lay over Senate Bill 157 until Tuesday, March 18th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. That bill will be laid over. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will rise and report.
Senate will come to order. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had one bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
March 14, 2025. Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 160, as amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 157, laid over until March 18, 2025, and retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 160 is amended, passed on second reading, order engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 157 laid over until 3/18/2025, retaining its place on the calendar. Consideration of resolutions. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of SJR 012.
Senate Joint Resolution 12 by Senator Roberts and Peltner and Representative Johnson and Winter concerning the designation of March 17, 2025 as Colorado FFA Day.
Senator Pelton, R as we look for Senator Roberts. Senator Pelton, R.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the resolution. I don't know what number it is.
12.
012. Thank you. And ask that it be read.
Mr. Schaffler, please read SJR 012 at length.
Whereas the Colorado FFA is dedicated to making a positive difference in the lives of students by developing their potential for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education, and whereas founded in 1928, the Future Farmers of America brought together students, teachers, and agribusiness to solidify support for agricultural education, and whereas in 1988, the official name was changed to the National FFA Organization, this change was made to recognize that FFA is not only for those interested in farming, but also for those with more diverse interests in the agriculture industry, encompassing science, business, and technology within and to support production farming. And whereas the Colorado FFA Foundation seeks human, financial, and in-kind resources to support agricultural education in Colorado for secondary and post-secondary students, adults participating in agricultural education, teachers of agricultural education, and FFA alumni. And whereas there are opportunities within the Colorado FFA Association for all members in grades 5 through 12 and in college to be involved in leadership and agricultural career development. And whereas whether a member grew up on a farm, in a suburb, or in an urban area, if they have a passion for judging and public speaking, want to explore the depths of agriscience, or get hands-on experience working in the industry, they are able to acquire such experiences through the diverse opportunities of agricultural education and the FFA. And whereas we recognize that the Colorado FFA Association and the Foundation are growing leaders, building communities, and strengthening agriculture through youth development, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 75th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, the members of the General Assembly, proudly recognize and designate Colorado FFA Day on March 17, 2025, in celebration of the many students who have gone and continue to go through the FFA program. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to the Honorable Governor Jared Polis, Colorado Commissioner of Agriculture Kate Greenberg, and the members of the Colorado Congressional Delegation.
Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I move Senate Joint Resolution 012.
That is a proper motion. Any discussion, Senator Pelton R?
Thank you. While my school didn't have an FFA program when I was there, it does now, and my grandchildren that live in Shinewells are going through that program, and it really develops some good leadership skills in those students that take it, and I'd ask for an aye vote on this resolution.
Any further discussion on SJR 012? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of SJR 012. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, SJR 012 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Consideration of governor's appointments. Consent calendar. Mr. Schaffler, please read the appointments listed on the consent calendar.
Members of the State Board of Real Estate Appraisers, effective July 2nd, 2024, for terms expiring July 1st, 2027. Darius Wise of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as an officer or employee of a commercial banking enterprise, experience in real estate lending, appointed. Clinton Taylor of Lakewood, Colorado, to serve as a representative of real estate appraisers with experience in appraisal management, reappointed.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the appointments on consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, which is Darius Wise of Aurora and Clinton Taylor of Lakewood for the Board of Real Estate Appraisers.
Any discussion? Seeing none. The motion is the confirmation of the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 1 vacant, those appointments are confirmed. Announcements. Members, would the Senate choir please assemble to wish a happy birthday to Senadora Gonzalez, who is celebrating her birthday today, and Senator Kolker, who will be celebrating his birthday tomorrow.
Can I do a quick announcement first?
A quick announcement from the Minority Leader as they make their way. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. As I speculated earlier, it is in fact true. that members of the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce are on the floor with us, and they have been through the course of the morning. Earlier today, the president and CEO of the chamber, Jonna Reed Claymire, was with us, but she has come and gone. Currently, we have a county commissioner, Cammie Bremer, is on the floor with us. Former county commissioner Sally Clark is on the floor with us, and many other wonderful individuals and friends from Colorado Springs and the Chamber of Commerce are with us. Folks, thanks for being here today.
Hey. Thank you for being here. And now, Senate Choir, please proceed.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Cindy Lisa Gonzalez and Cora. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Turn up. Any other announcements? Senator Together Winter Catlin. Senator Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have an announcement we'd like to make today. On Monday, those of you who are brave souls, the Butterfly Pavilion will be here on Monday morning with their tarantulas and all the other critters that they want you to hold, and if you'd like to, that'd be fine. I won't be participating, but that'll be all right. So I'm excited to announce that, to invite all of you to the Butterfly Pavilion Day at the Capitol on Monday with Senator Winter, my co-prime. The Butterfly Pavilion will be here before we begin floor work with sweet treats, Rosie the tarantula, and for those brave enough to hold her, and interesting facts to share about Colorado's invertebrates. So, for example, if you're into ants, velvet ants scream when they are scared. So, I think that's an announcement from the House. I'm not sure. Anyway. So,
Senator Catlin, will you be holding a tarantula?
Sir?
Will you be holding a tarantula?
No, sir.
Senator Catlin will be fined for making an announcement. I'm just joking. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be holding a tarantula. I am a certified Rosie handler, so she'll be up in the well with me. But they'll have other critters and facts and interesting people, interesting invertebrates. It's the opposite of people, invertebrates. And one of the best things about the Butterfly Pavilion is they were the very first certified invertebrate zoo. And to be in a ZooSu certified zoo, you have to show your dedication to science and conservation within the treatment of animals, and it's a very high standard. So please come say hi to the Butterfly Pavilion, get a sweet treat, learn some things about the importance of invertebrates in our lives and our economy, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday morning.
Thank you, Senator Winter and Senator Catlin. Announcements. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Today is the 660th Friday since my son Alex was murdered in the Aurora Theater Massacre, along with on July 20th, 2012, along with 11 others that included Veronica Mosier Sullivan, who was 6 years old. I don't know if you saw the story yesterday, but the coroner has reported that Anna Marie Hochhalter's death was ruled as a homicide. This is 26 years after the Columbine massacre. So we're going to have to change the history books on this because now there are 13 students that were murdered that day, along with one teacher. And I really watch the Columbine families and the events of Columbine because I know that's what's coming towards me. I know that, what the 15-year is going to look like because I already saw it with the Columbine one. I know what 25 years is going to look like. I know what they're going to put together. And seeing this, knowing that we have 3 kids that are in wheelchairs, Ashley, Stefan, and Caleb. I didn't know that there would be the possibility that their lives would be taken sooner because of complications from their injuries and from the lead poisoning that's still in their bodies and all of that. So they're quite clear, clearly they're on borrowed time. At some point, another, the Arapahoe County coroner is going to report an additional homicide that happened at 12:38 a.m. on July 20th of 2012, and that number is going to be increased to 13 or 14. It's hard for me to understand that we don't think about the others that are on the outside who have lost their life. Anna Marie's mother, I don't know if you all recall this, but in the weeks afterwards, she went to a pawn shop in Inglewood and went in there to look at a gun. And the operator put the gun on the counter in front of her and turned around to get the paperwork. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the 2 bullets that she had bought, loaded those into the gun, fired one of them into the wall, and the other one she used to take her own life inside of that pawn shop. How that mother is not included in this number of casualties is beyond me. It's the same thing I've already come here and told you about 2 of Alex's friends who were sitting in the row with him. One of them, an Iraqi veteran. The other was the girl that I told you about last week. Another coroner is going to come forward and say there's additional homicides from July 20th. Is something I think we should all.
If you would like a personal copy of the full long bill, please notify the front desk by 5 p.m. Monday, March 17th. Members, we are going to recess to read bills across the desk later today, so no need to return. Mr. President, I move that the Senate recess until 12:30 p.m. today.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will stand in recess until 12:30 p.m. today.